So welcome everyone to the regular board meeting of Sunrise School Division Board of Trustees. My name is Paul Magno and I'm the board chair. Welcome today, and I'm going to call our meeting to order. We are going to have O Canada, and it's going to be, we have Hazel Ridge School, so please stand if you can do so. Thank you very much, Hazel Ridge School. Much appreciated. We're going to have our treaty acknowledgement. I'm going to ask Trustee Harris to read out our treaty acknowledgement, please.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Robin. Before we adopt the agenda, we're going to take the time tonight to introduce ourselves. 7 of the 9 trustees are here. We have some guests that are in here as well. But for the trustees, can you, just a reminder for our guests, can you introduce yourselves and tell them what ward that you're from as well? So I'm going to go around the room. I'm also doing this so the two of us don't forget Sarah's name, by the way, so that's why we're doing that. So Paul Magny, I'm the board chair, I represent the Powerview Pine Falls area.
Trevor Reed, Superintendent.
Jody Thiessen, Secretary Treasurer.
Lars Spielberg, Assistant Superintendent.
Hi there, I'm Melissa Rowan from the Oakbank area.
Don Nickel from Whitemouth Reynolds area.
Donna Wilson, Lactabani.
Alicia Smith, Beaudesert.
Sarah Scott, Executive Assistant.
And Robin Harris, Brokenhead.
Thanks for doing that. And this is again for the people that are watching us online, the million of people that are going to be watching your presentation in a few minutes. Anyways, we'd certainly like to welcome Laura Lee Reimer and Kristen Bellany. Is that right? Close? Okay. I messed that up, so we'll get it right eventually. Anyways, there are 2 principals that are here with us that are making presentations tonight. 2 of the board members aren't here, so Trustee Dent and Trustee Rowland aren't with us here tonight, but there'll be 7 of us tonight. So we're going to adopt the agenda, so be it resolved the board approve the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nickel and seconded by Trustee Rowland. Any questions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 7-0. Thank you. 3.1 is Chair's comments. Please, if you have questions, you're online, please send the questions to jody.thiessen@sunrisesd.ca. Put your name and your address of the sender to be included in it, and we'll get to your questions during the question period at the end of the night. We'll try to answer as many of those questions as we can. I'm going to open up the floor to share a story. Trustees, anyone want to share a story? Trustee Rowan.
February is I Love to Read month, and I'm looking forward to reading at a Cole Douglas school on Friday and then at OBE later on in the month. Springfield Music Parents Association has their next meeting on Monday, February 10th in the SMS Band Room at 7 p.m. Additionally, they're also currently running a Krispy Kreme fundraiser. If you're interested in purchasing donuts, they can be purchased through SMS or SCI band students, and all funds raised will be put towards reducing the costs of students' 2025 band trips. College Pierre Elliott Trudeau is having an open house on Wednesday, February 12th at 7 p.m. This is an opportunity for any grade 8 students considering CPET for high school to come check out the school and ask any questions they may have. While CPET is in River East Transcona School Division, Sunrise School Division has an agreement with River East Transcona to allow our French immersion students from the Springfield area to continue their French education through high school. SCI will be hosting their grad fashion show on Thursday, February 13th at 7 p.m. Tickets are $10 each and can be purchased from the school. Additionally, Cole Douglas School has a drama production that they've been working hard on. This year, there were enough interest from students that they're running a mostly double cast, which allows them to have more student involvement. Given this, they've added a 4th night for families to come view the production. This year, students will be performing Murder on the 518. The show will play from Monday, February 17th through Thursday, February 20th at the Dugald Community Center. As always, there's lots going on in our schools, and I'm looking forward to taking in as much as I can.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm not sure anybody else wants to go after you, but thanks very much for going ahead and doing that. That's awesome. Trustee Nicol.
Whitemouth had a triple ball tournament for grade 4 to 6 for the northern half of the division. On January 30th, the PAC was involved by having a canteen and helping with the tournament. The grade 12 is having the big grad bingo on the Friday, so if you want to attend bingos, if you like bingos, which I don't, but you can attend. Something new that I'm looking forward to, and I don't know exact date, but it's going to be sometime next week. They're going to have an old-fashioned blacksmith at school, and they're going to demonstrate how people used to do the art of blacksmithing.
Thanks, Trustee Nicol. Anyone else? So I want to jump in certainly about exam week happened in our 5 high schools this past week, and we've started a second semester. So kudos to the staff and students for back at it exams, and as we start the second semester, a second set of courses, so that's hard work getting involved. And again, you know what, as we go ahead and move forward with snow, Trevor, when I was talking to Trevor, Superintendent Reed beside me here saying, hey, it's going to snow tomorrow. He goes, no, it's not, and I don't want to talk about it. Trevor's the guy that's up at, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, along with Jason Ziprick, our transportation manager. Those decisions are never easy in the morning about going ahead and doing it. So thanks, Trev, as we continue to go through some of those kind of things. Those are never easy things to call, and you know what, continue the support, and thanks for the work that you do when I'm sleeping in the morning and you're wide awake looking at those decisions. So thanks, Trev. We're going to move on. Mr. Reed, I'm going to ask you to introduce our 2 people that are here.
Yeah, so tonight we're welcoming 2 more of our colony principals. We're welcoming Laura Lee Reimer from Heartland School and Kristen Blaney from Gross School. And so they're going to take us through their school plan goals here, and we've got up on screen, and yeah, we'll turn it over to our guest. Thank you.
Hey there, I am Kristen Bellini. I am the principal at Whiteshell Colony School. We are located in River Hills. We have 29 students in our school with 2.5 teachers and 1.5 EAs.
And I'm Laura Lee Reimer. I'm just the term principal right now at Heartland Colony School. We have 38 students. We're located near Hazel Ridge, and we have 3.5 teachers and 1.5 EAs.
So our goal for the 24-25 school year is that every student will advance in their writing ability as measured by the Sunrise Writing Progression. Often Heartland and Whiteshell have been doing our goals together, so we find a common need between our two schools and we create one goal together. This allows us to support one another and collaborate with teachers that are in our own grade strands.
And why did we pick this particular goal? Well, one of the reasons we picked it is because all of our students are EAL learners, 100% of them, and they often face challenges in writing at their grade level. We find that reading is something for our students that comes more naturally. They enjoy reading and they read a lot. But when it comes to writing, if they have a choice, they will avoid writing, and it's not something that they are strong in. And so when we're talking about, I don't know how many details you heard from other colony schools about their students, but as EAL learners, they're kind of in a unique situation. At the age of 5, they come to us and they really don't know any English at all, very minimum amount of English. They're in an environment for the first 5 years of their life that is just Hutterish, their dialect. When they start school at the age of 5, they come and they, at the same time of starting English school, they start German school. So when they start German school, it's a different alphabet than we're teaching them. There's different phonetic awareness that they have to have. The phonemes that they have are double what they would have to learn in English. So these learners their little brains are having to learn a whole lot. And when it comes to writing, it poses a particular difficult challenge. Also, the fact that we have multi-age classrooms, so when we're looking at our class, many teachers have up to 5 grades. And so if you think about the variance in students in a single grade, now you're exponentially including it because now you have 5 grades. So your weakest to your strongest learner, there's a great span between them. And so writing has its challenges teaching all those different levels. And also we recognize that there's a need for a more intentional focus on writing instruction. We realize that in order for them to grow strong in those skills, we need to be intentional about teaching them.
So one of our main strategies for tracking student growth is using the Sunrise Writing Progression Data Tool. They are completed at the end of each term, and the information from the data tool tells us which students are meeting the expectations, approaching expectations, and not meeting expectations for grade level writing.
Another one of the strategies that we've been using lately is our PLCs. Across the colony schools, since each one of us in our school are only teaching to our grade level, we've decided that when the colony schools get together, we're going to make sure that we have groups that focus on the grades that we teach. So it's been a good time to be able to get together and share strategies, and a lot of our focus has been on writing during those PLCs.
So a couple of years ago, the colony schools all brought together some writing samples to create our own writing rubrics for each grade. We are currently still using these rubrics until the division comes out with their own set of rubrics that match up or align with the Sunrise Writing Progression.
UFly is one of the strategies that we're using in our early years teaching time. And it's time that UFly is something that we're using across the different colony schools, and we've been implementing it.
This year, Whiteshell has facilitated shared literacy time across our K-8 classrooms. This takes place every odd school day, and we divide the students up into 4 groups based on their abilities rather than our normal grade grouping. We have 2 UFly groups going, 1 WordWork group, and 1 group that is a combination of WordWork and reading to better meet the needs of all the students at once.
And this year we incorporated a specific time on the scheduled time for writing. Especially in our early years group, it's kind of something unique that we've done. So it's a small group writing time where we put them according to their grade level, and they take about a half an hour time slot to just write. And it's been so exciting to implement this because I've heard the grade 3 and 4 students say, that's even better than phys ed time. So for these early years learners, and I'm a phys ed teacher, so I kind of took that as a little bit of a hit, but the fact that they're excited about writing is something that we can get excited about too.
So this is our baseline data for Whiteshell Colony. We have 38% of the students currently meeting expectations, 29% are approaching, and 33 are not meeting the grade level writing expectations. And this data would have came from our plotting in the Sunrise progressions in November.
Looking at our graphing of our progression data, it's disappointing. We have 2 students who are meeting expectations when you look at these results. And these results are concerning, but it's also why we picked this as our goal. This was done earlier in the year. There's some factors, and I don't want to make them excuses, but some of the things that reflect these, this data is that we've had 3 different teachers in our middle years class since June. They've had a lot of changes. We have a lot of behavioral issues at our school. There's EAL challenges and also concerns with the progression, because sometimes the progression is very concrete, and with the writing process, it's not always linear, and so these may not be the best reflection of what kind of writers we actually have.
So this is just our first year with this goal. So with many literacy changes happening in the division this year, our focus for the first year of our goal has been on enhancing and refining our own teaching practices. We have implemented new strategies and programs like UFly and Secret Stories, and we are assessing our older practices and making adaptations for improvement. Our first year has been a year of professional growth and learning for the teachers.
There we go. Some of the challenges we have faced with this goal is providing targeted support for Tier 2 students. We find that in both of our schools that when we're looking at the tiers of our students, the top tier, those who have special needs that are funded, is a very small group, but it's our Tier 2 that is so bulky. We have so many students who have different challenges that it's hard to meet them within that Tier 2, and then our Tier 3 is quite small. So when we're looking at the writing challenge, we find that we have an early years class where we have a lot of suspected dyslexia, dysgraphia, and a high number of students who struggle with attention and self-regulation. So that's what makes it challenging to meet those needs. Also, the assessment scale does not account for EAL status. When we're plotting them, it's compared to all the students on the school division, not just those students with an EAL status. And there's also a lack of a designated literacy support teacher for the colonies. A lot of these special needs that these students have, our classroom teachers have a difficult time diagnosing because they don't have the ability to do it. And so by having a designated literacy support teacher who'd be able to come in alongside of our teachers and help them to be able to diagnose and treat those different situations that we have, it would, I think, improve our students' writing.
So our next steps in the upcoming years with this goal, we will continue to reevaluate our current practices in place to determine their effectiveness. Also, what works for one school may not necessarily work for the other school. So when we are reevaluating our practices, we do consider our own schools and classes and not the others.
We're also looking at expanding professional development opportunities for literacy instruction. This year we've really taken that PD time to focus on literacy and writing, and we're going to continue to incorporate those teachings so our teachers can get what they need to be able to teach our students.
The early years teachers have been implementing new programs and strategies that we would like to see carried forward into the middle years classrooms to create more consistency in the school. So for example, our middle years teachers will need to learn and display our secret stories, as many of the students are relying on them past grade 4, and it would be nice to have them seeing the same visuals within both classrooms.
And we're also going to be implementing a school-wide writing initiative as an additional assessment tool where all the students across the school and across the division, as I understand, will be doing school-wide writing, and so we'll be able to take that so we can assess the students where they are and to be able to find what weaknesses they may have and strengths so we can address those.
Here's just some pictures to go along with our question slide.
Thank you, ladies. Are there any questions from trustees? Trustee Nicol.
You mentioned about UFLI system. I don't know what that means now, but is that the same system most of the schools are using now, like Whitemouth uses that system? With phonics and stuff like that?
I understand that a lot of the schools have implemented it, so it was just by choice, but it's the one that we chose to help with our phonemic awareness and writing and reading in our school.
Anyone else? Miss Trustee Smith?
I had a couple. And I'm not sure if it's for the colonies or if it's you said suspected dyslexia. Are they not being diagnosed, or is that just because of the school? Like, you just think they have it? Are they not being diagnosed? Like, I was just questioning.
Currently at this time they're not being diagnosed. So our early years our student grouping is a unique bunch. There's a lot of different, it's like putting out fires sometimes, because you have to figure out what is the best plan to use. And so currently at this time, they're not being diagnosed for dyslexia. We're doing our best to implement what we know and how to teach kids and teaching them as a group and individually. But dyslexia is a complicated reading disorder to diagnose, and that hasn't, they have not been.
Is that the only suspected thing that they're not being diagnosed? Are there other things, like, probably, I'm guessing?
I would say in this early years class, there's a very high rate of ADHD. I would say that it's probably 80%. And that's just from me. So when you're looking at situations within the classroom, that's just not, ADHD isn't something that is, you can go to the family physician and get a note to say that they have ADHD, but it's not going to make too much of a difference in how we teach, right? Because we're going to teach to the student, and knowing that they have ADHD is just going to have us pull different things from our toolbox to be able to deal with them as class. But that's why I think it would be so helpful to have someone who's focused on literacy, so they can give us more tools in our toolbox. Because right now we're feeling that our toolbox isn't meeting all the needs.
When it comes to with learning in different things, are you able to send homework home at all? Are the parents helpful in any way? Like, I know when my kids were little, they were sent. Even when they were little, I thought, I'm like, their homework already? They're little, like, what the heck? But are the parents helpful in any way? Like, I know they don't have English when they come at 5, so there's probably no English at home at all. So it's probably not. I'm just curious.
I think it greatly depends on the school. At Whiteshell, I do send, like I'm the K-4 teacher, so I do send things home, whether it's just decodable reading that's related to their UFly or alphabet books or home reading, but it almost always gets done. They are very helpful.
No. Yeah. No. Yeah. We send very little home. I'm the high school teacher, so no homework is sent home at the high school level, and we've found home reading isn't really taken on either. So basically, we do what we can in the school. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anyone else? So I have a couple of questions. One of you said that you have 38 students and that you have 3.5 teachers and 1.5 EAs. So of the 38, how many of them are high school?
I have 16 high school students.
Thanks. And so you said that you have 29 students, and I didn't catch what your teacher and support is.
So I have 2.5 teachers and 1.5 EAs, and all of our high school students do their learning online. So those teachers are meant for K-8.
So how many high school students of the 29 do you have?
We have 8.
Okay, thanks. So I want to come back to your, for me to understand, and thank you for the presentation. So your goal is every student will advance. What does that mean, will advance? So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. What does that mean, will advance?
So we actually did change it a little bit initially. It did say advance a full year, but we also consider that to be quite lofty for our students, and we would like to see them move over to the next column on the progressions is what we're using as our assessment tool. Yeah, I just thought that a full year was a bit difficult to see the actual growth. I felt that if I said a full year, I don't think I would be giving credit to the kids who were still developing on those, on the progression tool that we also did kind of say doesn't fit the best for EA students, or EAL students, sorry.
Okay, so when I listened to you or when I read it and I said will advance, I wanted to, dig in further, and then you're telling me that 10 of the kids are meeting, 19 of the kids are approaching, or sorry, 10%, 19 are approaching, 71% are not in your data as to where you're going. At the end of the day, it's not really whether you meet a goal or not. It's the work that you're doing, and it sounds like you're doing some really good work with regard to the collaborating and the rubrics that are going on, and some of the best practice that you're talking about. So kudos to you for the work that's going on. I normally ask this question, and I'm going to go ahead and ask it again to you, but I think that you answered a little bit. You answered it a little bit. As we're in budget season, we always, in 7 trustees, want to hear from administrators as to what's up. You made the comment about, well, do you know what, literacy support is something that's real important to us. So you got the ears of 7 trustees, and you probably got a couple minutes left. What are some of the things that are needed so that when I come and ask you again next year, and I'll ask you this question, that we would love to see that 100% of our students are meeting? And maybe we will never get there, and that's okay, but what's the plan to try to get them to 100% are meeting, where we are, certainly in what you're saying with regard to the writing. So what do you need?
When I think of my own students in my class, it's hard for me as one person to give all of the kids the attention that they need. I can't be pulling out kids on my own when I have a whole classroom full of 5 other grades that I'm still tending to at the same time. So like we had mentioned, the literacy support is a huge thing for us, especially if our goal is related to that. I feel like we say every year, more hands on deck makes a big difference to us. Yeah.
I would say one thing that has been helpful is we've been able to take our math and to split it into grades. So even though teachers will have 4 grades for math, trying to teach 4 grades of math in one, it's almost impossible. And so I've been so thankful to be able to have the teaching support. So we have a cooperative teacher who comes in every other day, and she takes half of the early years math students for one session and half of the middle years students for another session. So instead of teaching 4 grades, going down to 2 grades, I'm very thankful for that. So now we'd kind of like to do that, now look at our literacy, and to have the support of a literacy teacher to come in and be able to give our early years and middle years teacher that help, that would be huge.
Thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Nicol?
This is for Hartman. For high school, do you teach all the kids in person? You don't teach anything online, do you?
Yeah, I teach all the compulsory courses to the high school students, so I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. What I do with our math is that I bring them all in and we do a rotation. So we do 10, 11, 12 each opposite year. I do history, geography, and social study. I alternate that each year. And then I do the English and the phys ed also. And most of the credits they earn through apprenticeship in the afternoon.
So are your courses electronic, as in do you use correspondence courses? Do you use, so how is a high school course, your high school course, different from a high school course that's at adult learning?
How, adult learning or in the regular high schools? So my high school courses, right now I'm teaching grade 9, 10, 11, 12 ELA in one section. So I scaffold it, so I teach according to the curriculum, but I'm looking for different things in my grade 9s that I would in my grade 12s. I would teach grade 11 history to all the students, so I would have grade 9 to 12, or actually grade 10 to 12 students doing grade 11 history, but then I alternate that, right? So I wouldn't say it looks any different than a regular high school course. Yeah, I think if that answers your question.
Anyone else? Any other questions? So you're 2 busy ladies. Thank you very much for the work that you did and for providing us information and sharing this. It's always great to hear from schools and get an understanding of some of the things that are going on. We appreciate the time that you come out and spend it with us. Thank you. And again, don't feel bad. You don't have to sit here any longer. You know what? You need to get up and go. Thanks. We're going to move on. Minutes of our meeting. So this 5.1, be it resolved that the board adopt the January 21st regular board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Smith and seconded by Trustee Wilson. Any questions to those minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. It passed 7-0, thanks. 6.1, Superintendent's Report, Mr. Reid.
Yeah, a few things to highlight for the group this evening. Just a reminder, we've heard it before, February is I Love to Read month, and lots of activities going on over the course of the month. I think I'm currently booked into 9 of our schools to read to kids, which is fantastic. Piggybacking those off our regular school visits. I know I'm in Gillis tomorrow, and I know that Gillis School, just as a little bit of a side note, had Canadian Olympian Desiree Scott reading to kick off their I Love to Read month. And if that wasn't a big enough treat for the kids, they get me tomorrow. So it is also February 9th to 15th is Teacher and Staff Appreciation Month, and so it's always a great time to say thank you to all of our staff in our schools for the hard work that they do with our students. We had a CELT meeting at the end of January, and as always, we've been collecting feedback to see how we're doing and for meeting the needs of our principals. Feedback on this meeting was particularly good, and of particular note, into our day we structured quite a bit of leadership and learning opportunities delivered by principals and assistant principals, and so that was particularly well received by the group. They did enjoy learning from their colleagues. Several meetings that we had over the last couple of weeks across the division and professional development learning opportunities that I highlighted for you there. At the end of the month, we also had our division principal, Mr. Gasperdi, and one of our assistant principals, Kelly Palmer at Dugald at University de St. Boniface, to do some teacher recruitment. They said that was successful in terms of connecting with a small but notable number of teachers who are interested, French immersion teachers who are interested in coming into Sunrise. And so that just really highlights the need for the trustees to, work efficiently through the budget process, which, we are doing, so we can pass a budget and start our hiring, for the next school year. Hiring is becoming increasingly more competitive, especially in the French immersion environment, so the earlier we get out and get our hiring done, the better off we'll be as a school division. Just a note again, February 3rd was a professional development day, school administration day across the school division, and I highlighted a few of the offerings that were going on a divisional-wide basis for there. And just a final note, Sunrise School Division has posted a third notice, a third update related to the Power School incident on its website. We do know that Power School has begun the process of reaching out to those impacted across Canada. They know there's been some notifications that have happened in the province of Newfoundland where the entire province uses the Power School system. There's also been some notification that's begun in Ontario. No notification has begun in Manitoba yet, and all school divisions impacted have reached out to seek clarification on that, and at the time of this report, no one has received anything back yet. So we don't know when the Manitoba notifications from Power Schools would begin, but we are expecting that to happen in the coming weeks. Yeah.
Questions for Trev? No? We're good? So Trev, one comment, and I think that now that all the teachers are all under one collective agreement, and now that we're going to be going ahead and battling tooth and nail for teachers, I think that Sunrise needs to come up with what is Sunrise doing differently than every other school division. I sent out to trustees, I think. Did all trustees get that video that I sent to them with regard to Lord Selkirk School Division? So Lord Selkirk put together quite a video about teacher recruitment video and about come work in Lord Selkirk. I'll send it to you. I saw it just the other day. I think I sent it to senior administration. So I think that obviously is something for us to think about as now we're under one collective agreement and it's not paying really more money than someone else and those kind of things. What is all of a sudden saying, hey, there's Sunrise? I think we need to figure out that kind of to put our heads together as to saying, hey, there's Sunrise, we want to go work in that school division. So I'm not quite sure what that is, but I do think that we need to put our heads together to figure that out in the next little while, because now I do believe that teacher recruitment and teacher hiring is going to get tougher and tougher for us as we move forward. So something to think about as we move forward. And if anybody has some great ideas, but I will send that video off to everyone. I did reach out to the chairman of Lord Selkirk School Division to talk about it. She says, well, I didn't have nothing to do with it, but she was very proud of the video that they've got out. not a lot different than the one that we put out a number of years ago called Imagine a School. Lorraine, you probably would remember it. Dawn, you would remember Imagine a School. And I have some copies at home. I should have brought it, and I will bring it as we get to meet for you to go ahead and take a look at it. Some great work there about highlighting our school division. Dawn?
I think Imagine School was on VHS, and I'm not quite sure how many people have VHS.
So it wasn't on VHS, but it is a disc that's there, Dawn. You're right. But it is, you know what, when Sunrise did it a number of years ago, it was about getting students and staff talking about why Sunrise. It was pretty powerful. So if you haven't seen it, it's interesting to see, but all of a sudden, yeah, we probably won't put it out on VHS now, Dawn, you're right.
Well, we can always convert the VHS to a CD if you want and give it to the trustees that way. It only costs about $5-6. So
Don, I'm glad that you brought it up, and it wasn't my gray hair that talked about the VHS, so that was good. Yeah. Anyway, something to think about as to where we are. So thanks, Trevor, for that. Anyone else? Okay, so we have the board reporting schedule that's there. It's there for information. Did you want to comment on anything about that, Trev?
Yeah, just a quick comment. When we look at our next couple of board presentations, the schedule currently reflects Power View coming on February 18th and Beausejour Early Years coming on March 4th. We've asked those school administrators to switch positions, so we'll see Beausejour Early Years on the 18th and Power View on March the 4th, and that's just very simply with the admin shift in Power View providing them a little bit more time and notice to have their presentation ready to go.
Thanks. Trev, one of the things that I would like us to take a look at, so we just had provincial exams, and we haven't written provincial exams in a little while. And schools are getting that information, and the province gives out divisional data, gives out provincial data as to where we're going. I'm sure that you're hearing from your schools, Trev, about where things are going. Some schools are structurally making some differences, i.e. Powerview went from a 4-block system to a 5-block system, so less teaching time. Do you know what, is there any reflection then on how our students are doing, et cetera, et cetera? I would like it if you get a chance to, I know that it's every November, but if we can get some information back to the board, certainly about how we're doing with regard to our provincial exams. It's not the be-all, end-all. It's a one marker in some of the things that are going on, but it's also then gives the board some information that if things are going great, good. If things aren't going great, how do we help? What is the kind of support that we need to put in place? Those kind of things. So if there's something that Trevor, you can go ahead and do to give us, because I know we look at it in November, that's a long time away, but this is the first, our provincial exams just finished. All those exams are corrected, or most of them should be corrected by now, and so people having that information feedback. Go ahead.
Yeah, it would not be difficult at all to add under the provincial assessment data column on the board reporting schedule to probably sometime in May, to after the province sends us out the data package for the January provincial tests, to come back with a very similar report like that we would do in November. So,
Sarah, can you make note of that so that I don't forget to ask that question, but I think that that's pretty important for us. Anyone else? Trustee Nicol?
Well, personally, I would like to see the data sooner than that. I don't mean data from the province, but I'd like to see the data from the division. So the data from the division, you should have it now, well, pretty soon, because everything is correct, because the marks got to be in the report card soon. And because by the time you get to May, I think that doesn't give if we're going to make any changes, that doesn't give the schools very much to change. And I don't really, in my mind, it doesn't really matter too much what the division is doing. I mean, so I don't care what the provincial is doing, but if the division is only getting a 40% pass rate in math, I'm concerned. I don't care whether the province is only getting a 40. That's the province, but division should be getting more than a 40. I'm just picking that example. I'm not saying that's what they're getting, but I would like to have it a little sooner, and then you can, and find out what the reasons why, if they are getting that low of a mark. And also, does it vary from school to school? And if one school is getting 80 and the other school is getting 40, what's the reason why one is getting higher than the other? Is it because of, because like in Whitemouth, when there's one teacher teaching 2 grades at a time, whereas in Beausejour and SCI, they teach only 1 grade at a time. So I don't know the marks in Whitemouth, but if the marks in Whitemouth is low, is that one of the reasons, and what can we do about it? So I like to see it sooner than May if possible.
So Trevor, so Superintendent Reed, think about it as to what it is. I'm anxious about it too for our schools. And so let's, if it's possible, dig into it and see where things are. And I think that we're coming from the angle of how do we support? If things aren't working, and I don't know if they're working or not, and if they are, great. But if one school is doing a real good job, then what are they doing, and how do we multiply that, by 4 to make all of our schools doing it? And let's just see kind of where things are going now that we're back into the swing of some of these exams and as to where we're going. Thanks. This is on to you, Secretary Treasurer's report. Jody?
Thank you. Yeah, just to give everybody an update of what the departments are doing, I just want to highlight really 2 things. I want to congratulate Bev Dunlop. She's been a secretary at the Transportation Department for a number of years. She's provided her notice that she plans on retiring. So I just want to wish her all the best in her next chapter of the book in retirement. So congratulations to Bev, as well as congratulations to Roxanne Cook, who is now or will be taking over the role of operations clerk in the maintenance department. Roxanne joins the maintenance department from the transportation department. So with those 2 announcements, there are 2 secretary positions in transportation. The job has been posted, both of them, and there'll be a round of interviews going on in the transportation world. But again, congratulations to Bev, and again, congratulations to Roxanne. It's nice to see employees move from one location to another. You'd hate to see them move from a department that's they work so well in, but it's also a good opportunity for room for growth, and looking forward to seeing her in the role in maintenance. So congratulations. And the rest is there for your enjoyment. Let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions? Trustee Harris?
Not necessarily. It's not a question, and I'm not sure whether this was Secretary Treasurer or the Superintendent, but our document that we got that showed us the people in the 2 buildings is fantastic. This is what I was hoping for 7 years ago. Thank you so much.
I would just say that was neither the Secretary Treasurer or the Superintendent, but rather the extremely capable and very helpful executive assistants to both of those people. So thank you to Sarah Scott and Jennifer Baker for putting those together for the trustees and everyone else who comes in and out of the offices.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much, Sarah. Thanks for going ahead and doing those things. Now Trustee Harris knows when he walks into a building, he's taking out his thing and he's being able to go ahead and share some names is what he's asked for. So kudos to that for the work. I don't know if when we talk about people that have been around a long time and they retire, maybe this is something that we can talk about offline, but kind of what do we do as a school division when people retire? People have been with us, for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. I know that we have a retirement, celebration, but it's when someone goes in the middle of the year, it's, it's kind of a big deal. It's, and maybe just I'm recognizing that because I'm getting old and, and seeing that. So let's, but I do think that, we do a really nice job at the end of the year about bringing people back together. But if Bev is leaving now, and it just made me think. And so this is maybe my inside voice thinking, but as I look around the room, I'll be just nodding heads, but something to think about with us. Let's move on. Board business. Monthly enrollment. So we have that for information. Thank you. Anybody want to comment on the monthly enrollment? Okay. So 8.2, student-specific plan data. So this is Mr. Fieldberg. Turn it over to you.
Thank you. This report follows the same format as it has in past years, so I think I'll go through the first part of it fairly quickly. By all means, stop and ask questions if you would like. It just gives a little bit of a background about why students have any plans at all, what those plans are, and then it ends with information about how we make decisions about using our budgets to support students that require additional supports and an opportunity for questions. So there's an umbrella term that is student-specific plans, and all the other names of plans fall under that term. The umbrella term used to be IEP, but it's now student-specific plans, and in Sunrise, these are the plans we have. The plan names change from division to division. One notable change in Sunrise is we don't have a separate behavior intervention plan. We consider that a goal that requires an individual plan, so it just falls under an IEP. Why do students have plans at all? It basically filters down from the Canadian Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms down to provincial legislation. One item that is not mentioned on here is the standards for appropriate educational programming, which is based on all this legislation and outlines what schools are required to do for all students in Manitoba. So the plans, adapted education plans, who gets these? Students who have learning needs don't all get an adapted education plan. Schools are expected to meet kids' needs by addressing their planning in terms of universal design, what are the variety of kids I might see, and just plan that way from the outset. And it's normal and expected that teachers would be doing some different things for different kids with seating and stuff like that. It doesn't need to be recorded. Yes. Universal design is an approach to planning where before you even know who your kids are in your class, you would be planning for what do these kids need to know, and right at the outset, what are the variety of ways I can have kids engage with this? Are they going to hear it? Are they going to see it? Are they going to be able to move and do it? It's planning that does not even take into account who is there. You just plan from the outset that I need a variety of ways for kids to get at this. So instead of saying they're going to read this novel, it's like, why? What's the outcome? So some kids will read a novel, some kids might listen to it, some kids might have it on audiobook, and some kids might listen to a peer, but they're getting at the learning. Differentiated instruction is who are the students in front of me, and do some of those kids have a specific need that I take into account for planning. And there's quite a bit of gray in between those. It's difficult to differentiate those two terms, but that's the broadest way of explaining it. So when students really need a very specific approach in order for them to access learning, it's like, hey, I cannot read. I have a learning disability and I can't read. So how am I going to read? That kid might have an AEP. That student needs text-to-speech. If they have to have something in order to show what they've learned, that would be on an AEP. So we've restricted them to these kids need these things. That's who gets an AEP. Those are often a result from recommendations from specialized assessments from our clinicians. In terms of report cards, we would not see those kids differentiated on the report card. There's nothing on the report card that indicates the student is having adaptations in order to get that grade. So you will not see in a report card there. Yeah. It's regular outcomes, the reporting on did they achieve that, they're not categorized in order to be filtered out on the report card. And that's a provincial directive. ELAPs are another type of plan. Those are for students who qualify to be considered an English as an additional language learner, and they're placed on a continuum. And the kids who have no English language skills at all, their learning goals are basically learning the language, and they don't get really graded on the outcomes. And as they gain more language skills, more of their reporting is based on the outcomes. IEPs, this is a little bit of a source of confusion because we have two sets of students who would get IEPs. This is the first set. There are kids who have goals that are not curriculum goals. They might be socialization, behavior. So when they're important enough to document and work on and have plans around, those get documented on an individualized education plan. But they may be getting a regular report card. They would not be differentiated on the report card. Their goals are outside of curriculum. So their science, social studies, math are reported regularly on the report card. Curriculum modification plans are only for students who qualify for them. And they can only qualify for them if a educational psychologist indicates that they meet the criteria. Once they meet the criteria to be able to have modifications made, it doesn't mean that modifications are made. It only means they can be made for that student. And lots of our students have excellent teachers who are not modifying the courses, and they're passing them, and they get a regular report card. When they're modified, that is designated on the report card. We would be able to filter out that those scores on the report card are based on modifications, because that is there's a checkbox on the report card to indicate that. And in high school, each course is designated with an M. So that's, you can separate it on the report card data. The second categorization of who gets an IEP are again those students identified by a school psychologist, and it's determined that it is not reasonable to expect them to benefit from engaging in provincial curricula. Their entire program is individualized. They might go to a course, but they don't have to be enrolled in that course, and they wouldn't appear on the report card for the course because they're not engaged in the curriculum. They might be in that class for an entirely different reason, social skill development, life skills development, or what have you, and they would have portions of their day. They're just programmed based on their individual needs. So they get a front page of the report card, but there wouldn't be any courses on it. They just get a copy of their individual education plan report sent to the parents during report card time. So here is some data. You will see on several of these pages a difference between the total number of plans and the number of signed plans. So there's a little over 500 AEPs in Sunrise, but there's only 353 that are signed, because many of them are like, hey, we're going to make a draft, maybe we're going to have an AEP, maybe we're not. Sometimes they just get left for a few months, and then at the end of the year they clean them up and delete them. So it's the signed plans that are the actual plans. So there are about 7% of the student population that have an AEP. Just a comparison in those two charts from last year to this year. There's a consistent rise, past grade 5 and sort of peaks around grade 10 of who has AEPs. What are the areas that adaptations are made in? It is no surprising that reading, writing, and math are way up there. We're able to pull that data off of the AEP because the adaptations are made in different categories. IEPs, there are a total of 185 draft plans. There's 121 signed plans. And that graph shows the difference between signed plans in orange and in the dashed lines of existing. Difficult to determine a pattern there. This is probably more representative of kids with really high needs and just where they happen to be in the population. Of course, there's a significant drop-off. We don't have a grade 13, 14, and 15, but those are the years after grade 12 that individualized students on individualized plans remain in school till age 21, so of course there's a small number there. The areas or the domains on the IEPs, like where are goals being set, a high number of them are social emotional. Learning behaviors would encompass a really wide range. There should be a lot of independent living, and there should be a lot of communication goals, because in terms of kids who are on individualized programming, those would be very important areas to address. It would not be likely to see numeracy and literacy goals, because those are functional numeracy and literacy. Kids past grade 6 should not have those on an IEP. Those would be more likely captured in a life skills goal around shopping, food prep, and that sort of thing. You would no longer see specific literacy and numeracy goals. How are our students doing on their IEPR scores? This would be very different than report card scores. Some kids you might see a progression from a 1 to a 4 throughout the year. Other kids might have a 4 and then the goal changes and then it's a 1 the next report card because they've changed the goal. So it would be difficult to say we should see a rise. It would really depend on the students and how their goals may or may not have changed. Course modification plans, this is what I referred to early. There's a big difference in our schools between who is entitled to modifications and who actually has at least one course or subject being modified. When we had our review and report process, I got the feeling that the folks from our province really liked the idea that, oh, you're not just modifying kids because they meet criteria. It's like, no. They only get modifications if they actually need them. Otherwise, they are meeting regular outcomes. It's far better for a student to get a 55% in history class, not modified, than to get a 90% that's modified. Because it's an indication that they are getting the full spectrum of what the province determines kids should know. They're being exposed to all of the outcomes. It doesn't mean they're getting a quote-unquote better education. It's just that, no, they can meet these things. They're being pushed to their limit and they're reaching the highest standard that they could possibly meet for their individual goals, rather than we didn't expect a whole bunch from them and we give them a 90. Does that capture a little bit? Oh, okay. Yeah, modified means that you've identified outcomes in that course that the student is not going to be assessed on. Now, technically, if you choose even one of those, the course is modified. Most of our teachers don't necessarily deliver and assess every single outcome, because the outcomes are just, huge collections in some cases. But when kids have this capacity to look at, do we need to modify, we have course descriptions for every course that lists the outcomes, and the team looks at that and say, is this student able to achieve enough of these that we would consider them to get irregular credit? And if there's 2 or 3 things or 4 things that they can't do, it's like, well, they're gonna try anyways. We're going to assess them like everybody else, and they can get the full credit. But once you've decided we're not even going to teach or assess that, it's considered modified. very briefly now on, okay, there's all these plans out there. How does this impact in terms of how EAs are used? We have 144 available. 5 of them are used to support speech and language programming. So there's, and we keep a buffer of 5 to adjust to needs as they emerge in the following year. So there's a roughly 135 remaining to support. One of our presenters here, I think Lorelei mentioned tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3. Tier 1 and 2 are standard education. Every kid who has a support need would all be tier 3 kids, and not even all of those. Not going to go over all these, but these are just a list of categories in which we look at to consider which kids would be our priority needs. They're the old funding categories. Once all of those are met, we've looked at all the schools, who's on individualized programming, who has needs in those areas. When those are all met, we look at the next level down, which would be those kids in modified programming or kids on IEPs for behavior. Dyslexia is mentioned, that's going to be pretty low on the list. Kids with a specific learning disability or learning disorder diagnosed. Honestly, universal design and differentiated instruction are most of the time the support that they're going to get, or small group support. Yep. Correct. Yeah. And we've been talking about specific learning disabilities for a couple of years now. And there's the hope and desire that only if I could get a diagnosis, someone would tell me the right thing to do. And our clinicians say, do more of what we've already determined is good teaching. It's a little bit heart-wrenching because we want there to be a solution, but it's really good basic teaching, and the work that we've done in shoring up our literacy practices, basically that's it. The small group support to do it better, absolutely, is practically beneficial. Meeting the needs of those priority needs and kids on modified programming, kids with, there isn't anything left to meet those needs in school. That's related to some of the budget requests that we've been talking about. There are kids who will receive some support because they have some minor medical needs that don't require a half a time or a full. We take that into account. Kids who are transitioning between schools that have high needs would get a little more priority than other students. And it says here again, so I don't have access to all the data of who has a diagnosis, but from what I do have based on student plans, there's a minimum of 70 students with a diagnosed specific learning disorder in reading and writing and or math. That's a very small number, I think, of the total amount, but that's the only data I have access to. So that would be an underestimate. That we would never be able to support a student if that was the request.
Based on that, from what we heard today, what if they've got ADHD and English as an additional challenge? Now they have two very strong challenges that they have to overcome.
That's the challenge of teaching today. There's no, if we chose to support that, we're not even close to the budget and resources to do it. Because if we applied that everywhere, we would have as many EAs in classrooms as kids. I'm exaggerating.
However, Lars, this is really good for us to listen to and talk about, because I think, Lorraine, you brought up, so somebody has ADHD and somebody has a behavior thing. Does that mean that they're getting EA support? Well, what we're seeing here, no. Somebody has ADHD and comes to school, like what we heard about the Hutterite children coming in grade 1. Well, they need to have an EA with them. Well, no, that really doesn't happen. And you're telling us kind of the information that's going on here. So this is great for us to go ahead and communicate. Don?
When you say someone has a specific learning disability, it would be very low on the list of priorities for EA. That doesn't mean that they won't get EA if there's EA in the classroom. So they might get EA support, but not for that student. Is that what you're saying?
That's a very good point, because when we look at the needs of schools, we allocate them a certain number of EAs. They can use that however they like. So if there happens to be 3 kids in a classroom that could have benefited from support, it might be one person that can provide that support for half the day, and that they're allowed to use those resources as flexibly as possible. I do have to say that as the needs of kids as the number of kids with high needs have tended to increase, there's less flexibility.
That's a really good point, Don, and as to what is, yes, that if we have a student that we're, and again for reasons A, B, C, and D, that there's an EA in the classroom working with that student, can the EA work with all the other students? Absolutely. However, we do need to meet the needs of the student with A, B, C, and D, because it's legislated about what we need to go ahead and do. Is that fair?
It's not so much legislation even as practicality. Kids with really complex needs, it's not a choice. They need that support. In some cases, we might be negligent in terms of, not legally, but you're not going to leave that kid sitting there doing nothing. They got to be engaged, right? There's a balance to be struck also with independence. Sometimes we over-support kids, and we are better off leaving them to their own devices at times. So schools do their best to balance having their schools function and doing the right things for kids, but also promoting independence. I don't think there's anything
More
to add here.
questions? Sorry, Lars. Trustee Wilson?
Lars, how many students would be achieving a modified credit in the high schools?
All of the kids here in gray, if they have a signed curriculum modification plan, it means their credits are modified. There's no number tab on these, but there's 26 signed course modification plans. Some of those are below high school, but there's at least 22 students now. And this is from the first reporting period. These numbers could be slightly different now.
Do you find that number growing within the school division?
It grew exponentially a few years ago when the different expectations came into play for what to do for kids who had modifications. Because when I was a resource teacher, there weren't the same expectations, and we were doing stuff like the Wild West in terms of what modifications were and whether they were documented and how they were documented. So several years ago, there came into play much more clear guidelines for what to do and how to, and because of that, you would have seen a rise in modifications being made. I don't know that there's an increase of kids who meet criteria for modifications. I would be guessing.
The reason I'm asking is because a modified course load really significantly limits their choices in terms of post-secondary, whether that be college or university. And in my day job, I see many students trying to come back and achieve an S credit when they formerly had an M credit. And it's very, very difficult for them to achieve an S credit. So I'm just wondering what's happening on the landscape.
I should have added that to the explanation of why not to modify, because it restricts them from access to post-secondary. I would venture to say that all of the students who are receiving course modifications, it's multiple. It's like they're not going to pass. And schools really do limit these to, do we have to modify? If we don't have to, we're not going to. But as soon as you've got even one course, compulsory course, modified, all of a sudden there are restrictions in place.
Does that make sense? So that if somebody, okay. Thanks, Lars, and thanks for answering questions as I was cutting you off there and doing stuff. Anything from anyone? Again, Lars, this is one of the best presentations, certainly about describing this and giving people a little bit of a picture. It's also then giving people a picture as to, you know, what supports are in the school and you know, my child is, you know, I think that I'm going to go back to Alicia's thing that somebody's dyslexic, they're getting, you know, individual help, and, you know, that's just really, you're working, the teacher, it's good teaching about how you're going ahead and helping that, about how you're helping that student.
Lorelei also mentioned that what they're seeing is an expanded group of kids who wouldn't get support, but they have needs. We're seeing that across the division, where it's a bit of a different struggle than in the past. It's a load. It's difficult on schools. It is. What we do to make their work more efficient is they place all of their kids on those continuums and they use it as a class profile. It's not practical or useful for them to fill out a plan for every kid. We know that they qualify, so they use those continuums for their planning, but it's like it's a waste of time for them to do that work. Yeah.
Anything else for Lars? Trustee Harris?
Lars, in our nice little picture thingy here, it shows you have one assistant to the assistant superintendent. Does she manage all of this data, or is a lot done by the school secretaries and you see the results of that?
I do this. Yeah,
Good job.
I've gotten good at it because our student information system, Clever, is like, it's very adaptable to gathering data and filtering stuff. So yeah. I'll tell her that she has to do it from now on. I'll train her.
So the answer to that is the secretaries at the schools are putting in all this data. Not bad either. So
it's efficient because in order for staff to make plans, they do it in Clever. So the data is automatically there. So the whole system puts in information about kids because they have to record whether they have a diagnosis, they have to record their goals, they have to record which courses are modified, they have to do that by legislation to make plans anyways. So because it's done electronically, those fields are searchable, which allows me to compile the data.
So I can add one other thing. Go ahead.
Right, I meant, you're not actually typing in 68%. No, and your assistant isn't doing that either. It's the different parties throughout the whole school division. Yeah, and then you're reaping the benefits of all their work.
So I'm going to say one other thing is that I think right in the front you talked about that you have 134 EAs or 145 EAs. But this is the information that's coming to him so that he can allocate 5 to White Mouse School because of this, and this. And to Parvati School he's giving 2 because of this, and this. And he's got to go ahead and get that data and get that information. This is the information that is coming to him with regard to being able to go ahead and because principals are on him steady with, well, I know I was a principal that I was on the LARS as a guy to, you know what, steady around, you know, what do I need to do and show to whatever what we're doing, and this is the kind of work that schools need to put together so that to get that support from the division office. Fair comment?
Yeah, so earlier I was trying to give credit to these two things to Trevor and Jody, and I was told it was Jennifer and Sarah. So this time I tried to give credit to our secretarial staff, and it was the other way around.
Well, let me take this opportunity, Robin, because you reminded me, without which I would not have done this. Patty Schoberg is my main support, and she is fantastic. She has literally significantly increased the capacity of what I can do, and Lorinda and I can do in student services, because she is so trustworthy with organizing stuff. It saves me tons of time. She's fantastic. Yeah, she deserves the 2 thumbs up. Yeah.
So I've known Patty for years and years. You just dropped a name there, Lorinda, and I was able to look at our nice little guide, and that 2 thumbs up. That was great.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Lars. Anyone else for Lars? Siri's now putting questions for him. Okay, thanks. Let's move on. Now we have literacy intervention plans, and this is back to you, Lars. Are you doing that? Are you doing, Trev?
So we've spoken a couple times at this table about shifting the way we think about teaching students how to read and updating our practices, and certainly I think as our schools have been coming through, you've been hearing that you know, at the school level as well. So just pulling together, this would have been, well, back in the fall would have been the time of the year that we would have reviewed previously through a board report the reading recovery data. Shifting away from reading recovery data to more a generalized literacy intervention or reading intervention, we bumped it to, you know, into after the new year, so we had a little bit more time to collect some data, and so that's what we're bringing forward here. So basically the shift is just looking at, you know, teaching kids in kindergarten to grade 2, making sure that they had strong foundational skills. And without going into too much detail, that is just all the skills that are needed to be able to decode text, which means they can, you know, look at a word, associate the letters that they see on the page with the sound, and then string those sounds together. Not the full piece of reading. Decoding is actually just, you know, letters to sound. Reading would be, of course, much more comprehensive of making sense of what we read and comprehension, but decoding text is without a doubt the foundational skill that we need to build in all students so they can become good readers. So lots of work going on in our school to make sure that we have good decoders so they can become good readers. And recently we sent our division principals out to all of our schools to meet with principals and literacy teams to have some conversations about how things were going. And just some quick summary points included in the report. Some of the feedback that we've got from schools is they've just been able to work with a significantly higher number of students, you know, with this approach than with, you know, previous methods. They're not seeing a drop off in terms of the amount of, an increase in the amount of time that they need to spend with students. Actually, in many instances, they're seeing less time with students to get the same results as previous interventions. And, you know, one of the biggest surprises, I think, and it's a very pleasant one, is that we know just by human nature change is different, and asking people to do things differently than they were before sometimes presents some challenges. We're getting very good buy-in from our schools and our teachers. They've noticed the value of this right off the bat, and the change in practice has actually been, in many ways, quite seamless. And teachers are excited about it, and when I go to schools, I asked classroom teachers about it, and yeah, they're very excited about changing their practice because they're seeing results with their students. So a lot of anecdotal feedback at this point in time in the year. We do look forward to kind of getting closer to the end of the school year and some of the data that we've asked schools to track, so we can actually bring back some harder numerical information to share with the board. But that's just an update sort of as we kind of hit partway through the year.
Thanks, Trev. Any questions for Trev? So that's really interesting, Trev, you know, the information that you're showing to us too, certainly is from the old reading recovery model to kind of where things are going and then the feedback from teachers. So kudos to the work that's going on in that area. We'll move forward to the continuous improvement plan. And Trev, before you start, it's kind of interesting that one of the fellows that came out from the department is a former principal at Lactabonny Senior of ours, if you're not aware, Ron Sugden. Ron was a former principal with us, and now works for the department. Certainly is the provincial lead with regard to the continuous improvement plan. Ron went on after us to go and be an assistant superintendent, I think, somewhere, and then moved into the department. I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but part of it is you know, when thank you for sharing this information, because this is always what we're looking for about how we're doing and what the province is saying to us as to what are some of the things that we need to go ahead and work on. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, but this is really, for me, this is good information coming back to me and saying is that, okay, as for some of the things, now this is an external source that's coming to us and giving us a little bit of so this is something that we need to celebrate. I don't know how yet, but we don't do enough of this by celebrating about some of the things that are going on. Go ahead, Trev.
Yeah, so we were able to meet with some representatives from Manitoba Education Early Childhood Learning. It was especially nice to reconnect with Mr. Sugden, but also to have two of the assistant deputy ministers out, Janet Tomey and Rene Duquier. So the three of them came out, met with myself, Assistant Superintendent Fieldberg, and our two division principals. We spent a couple hours together here in the division office, and we were able to share information on our literacy, French immersion, and numeracy initiatives going on in the school division. We had also prepared and hoped to share a little bit about our Indigenous academic achievement and our use of the Manitoba School Leadership Framework to build educational leadership skills in our building principals. We ran out of time and never got to do that. But I did highlight a few bullets in the center there, just some highlights of the things that very initially they were impressed with and some feedback they left us with before they left the meeting. They did say that they would follow up with a bit more of a comprehensive report later in the spring, so we'll look forward to getting that from them as well. And they did not really identify any areas for improvement. They were actually very impressed with our Sunrise processes. We'll see if anything comes out in their final report, but nothing for now. The interesting part is the Sunrise team that I had mentioned as we were going through this process, preparing for the meeting, a couple of things that we kind of observed and sort of things to focus on for the future is, you know, I think we've planned each of our initiatives, you know, with some clear purpose, and we have individualized plans for all of them, but we don't collect those and sort of publicize that in any way, shape, or form. All of our schools are expected to do a school plan and make that sort of public and have identified goals and timelines. And we sat in a room together and we realized that we actually don't do that as a division. And so we've committed between the four of us to making that a goal for the spring as we start planning ahead for our priority areas in the fall. We will map out a memorialized or written document that we can put on the website and share with all of our stakeholders, including the trustees, about what our focused initiatives are, you know, for the following school year. The other thing that came out in our data, and it's certainly a provincial trend as well, is like almost all places in Manitoba, we are noticing a gap, an achievement gap between our Indigenous and our non-Indigenous learners. We found that in our grade 3-4 data, our 7-8 data, and our grade 12 provincial assessment data. Although interestingly enough, it did not come out as clear in our report card data. Don't know what that means exactly, but that was just one of our noticings. We also, when we had a look at it, the gap in Sunrise may not be as wide as it is in other areas in the province, and that we also believe from the review of the data that the Indigenous students in Sunrise may be performing above their Indigenous peers elsewhere in the province. Just some initial observations, but still a gap between a non-Indigenous Sunrise student and an Indigenous student in Sunrise. And we need to address that in some way, shape, or form. No, that is also getting significantly more dialogue at the province, especially through the Indigenous Excellence Directorate, which is a new initiative of the province. And so it's going to get more provincial conversation, and so it's obviously something that needs more conversation here in Sunrise as well. So.
Comments or questions for Trevor? Trustee Nicol, and then I'll come to you, Trustee Smith.
This is not a question. I'm just letting you know that Ron has more background for Sunrise than just Lac-des-Bonny, because he taught a number of years at Whitemount. In fact, I used to teach with him. So I'm letting you know that it's not only the background in Lac-des-Bonny, but he has a background from Whitemouth.
I think that's Trustee Nicol saying is that he taught him everything, so that was the way it is. I'm just teasing you. Thanks, Don. Trustee Smith?
I just had a question about our Indigenous students. Like, we have Indigenous students in our northern schools, but we do have some in our other schools. Their grade averages, do they differentiate in our schools?
So we didn't have a chance to look at the data on a school-by-school basis, but when we get data back from the province, from the provincial assessments, the phrase that they use is disaggregate, or did the disaggregated data. And so that means they separate it out into a variety of categories. So we would see a Sunrise average, a provincial average, we would see averages by schools, and then we would also see averages for our EAL students, students in care, Indigenous students. I believe there's one other category that we see as well, but I'm drawing a blank on it at the moment. So we see back from the province the grade 3, 4, 7, 8, and grade 12 assessment data broken out into a variety of categories. So.
I think, though, to answer your question, is that historically have the Aboriginal, our Aboriginal students not done as well as the rest of our students? Yes. That is provincial-wide. Very much so. And so again, I think that that's a good question to go ahead and ask, and I think the number 2 that you've talked about here, Mr. Reid, is certainly about, you know, what are we doing with our Indigenous Academic Achievement Grant, and if you're talking about maybe there needs to be a shift, you know, as to what you're looking at, yeah, I think all of us would be interested to hear as you move forward with that. What are some of the things from the information that you're collecting? Is that what are some of the things, and where do we need to go differently, certainly with that? But that's you're just starting that, so that would be interesting. I'd be interested, and I think the rest of us would be interested to find out where we are with that. Other questions for Mr. Reid? Trev? Ver? No? Okay. Thank you for putting that together, Trev. And again, I do always think that it's about how do we celebrate and share some of this stuff is important for us as well. So thank you for that. MSBA convention topics, that's a me thing. I've sent stuff out to you guys. So at the MSBA convention, they are going to go ahead and look at dividing this group up into, to meet with different, so instead of just meeting with Region 3, they are going to put you into table groups with people from across the province. And they are going to go ahead and look at specific topics. And so my question to you is there anything that Sunrise would like trustees across the province to discuss about? Yeah, go ahead.
Mine would be mental health resources.
What specifically are you talking about? So mental health, what are mental health resources available to students, or I'm not sure what you're asking for.
We actually had a discussion at one of my latest PAC resources, and the lack of mental health resources outside of, well, my parents were concerned of the lack of mental health resources outside of the city of Winnipeg. So I don't know how other groups would discuss it, but they basically said that if you're outside of Winnipeg, there's nothing available.
Okay, so I'm not sure, so you're trying to, I'm not sure how we would discuss, are we discussing what mental health resources are available in our school division? Like, I'm not sure what the topic would be.
What kind of resources we can bring into our schools, since there aren't resources available. Like, basically, we're trying to find out what we can bring into our schools outside in the rural areas, because we have parents that can't bring their kids into the city as often, so we want to see what we can bring out to the schools. If there's that's kind of topics my parents are interested in.
Okay, perfect, thanks Alicia. Don?
Well, I would like them to discuss about the budget, and this year was one of the latest time we got the budget, and how did that affect them to make a good budget, because they have a little bit of time, and what's the recommendation? My recommendations, I don't know why they can't give it to us middle of January, but what would be their recommendation to the province so that we can get it at a reasonable time? They want us to make a budget in 3 weeks, or less than 3 weeks, whereas they got a whole year to make the budget, and they gave us 3 weeks. So to me, that's not fair. So that's something I'd like to discuss, or they should discuss.
Okay, thanks Don. Anyone else? Trustee Boyson? Anyone else? Yeah, Trev?
I think as a group of trustees, you're getting closer to where you want to be with non-union compensation and contracts, but that may be something that you want to bring up and see how other school divisions and other boards handle those negotiations or renewals as they come up.
So about how other school divisions handle non-union contracts?
Yeah.
Don?
Yeah, the thing I think they could discuss is for northern and rural Manitoba, how difficult it is to do a PD session. In fact, you have to go all the way to Winnipeg to get a PD session, whereas if you're at Thompson, and have they considered ever having more PD sessions on Zoom and Teams, or let's use the word Teams? Because I can see someone from Thompson, they only have so much money, and out here we can go to 2-3 PD session, whereas in Thompson, they probably only go to 1 for the amount of money they're spending.
Okay. This has been awesome. I'm going to be sending this thing away saying, hey, our board discussed, and I'm any others? If you've got any others, but I'm going to get this off because I do need to get this off to MSBA, but I'll get those 5 topics off and see if they'll choose those, any of those for discussions. They haven't had a whole lot of them. I'm going to come out a rock star showing them is that, oh yeah, don't worry, that's pretty good from us. Okay, leading with literacy. This you, Mr. Reed?
There's a motion.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Be it resolved that the board approve all trustees to attend Leading with Integrity, Governance Essentials for Boards, February 28th to March the 1st, at a cost of $179 per person. We'll put it on the floor and then see if, do we have a mover and a seconder to put on the floor, and then we can discuss it? Okay, so we'll move by trustee Boyton and seconded by trustee Rowan. This is the in-service by Roy Seidler. Trustee Nickel.
I just let you know that he was a former superintendent, and he's also written a book. He's come out to Sunrise once or twice already to talk to us.
Roy Seidler? Yeah, so Roy used to be the superintendent in Seine River.
Yes.
So he was the superintendent in Seine River, and now he's trying to work on the side, offering some things. Trustee Rowan?
Given we've already approved trustees to attend Capsule and CSBA last July has already happened, and so those things are kind of already spent or factored into our budget. Are we okay to be approving this extra PD?
You kind of put me on the spot. So I'd have to confirm for you folks. I do believe there's some room. I don't know. Yeah, because the CSBA is in July. That's on another budget year, I believe. But correct. So I don't have the budget numbers. I would suspect there'd be room for a few, but I don't know with everybody going. But again, I'd have to look at those numbers.
I maybe as we discuss go ahead, Trustee Smith.
Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm just looking. I just noticed it.
So there is a motion that is talking about allowing all. I guess the question is, are there any trustees that are interested in going? Maybe that should be the better question. And then all of a sudden, so the question that you asked was a real good one. So all of us put up our hands, and this is $2,000, $5,000 or whatever it's costing us. Do we have the $5,000 or whatever to go ahead and do that? So you asked a great question, but maybe the question before is there interested in going there? And I think that there's probably interest, that I've seen interest maybe from one trustee, and that's Lorraine talking about it. Well, it says the registration for both dates. It talks about February 28th and March the 1st. I think there's, the information is for both. Trustee Nickel.
Well, from what I understand, according to our bylaw and everything else, every trustee is supposed to have the equal amount. So as far as I'm concerned, if a trustee like Lorraine would, I know how much I spent in my PD this year. I do have room to, if I'm get the equal amount, which used to be $1,500 for a trustee, I haven't spent $1,500. So if I wanted to go, I would say I want to go, and I have the money because it's supposed to be equal amount. So I'm saying if Lorraine's got money, then I see no reason why we can't pass it.
Oh, that's a really good point. I don't know if we ever talked about that trustees have $1,500. That's not kind of the way that we've done it. But you're right, Don. You're absolutely right. Is that it really has been certainly about.
That's the way we've always done it. It's only been the last 3 years that we haven't talked about it, because we've always had 50. I can show you that even on a piece of paper that we've showed that $1,500, $2,500 stuff that was in 2014. I still have that information.
Okay, so you got fired. I got it. The question is, and we should have that discussion, because I don't think that we've had that discussion about everybody has the access to $1,500 to go ahead and share on PD. I don't know if we talked about that, but that's something, Jody, that we need to go ahead and talk about. The question right now is that are there interested parties in going? Right now we have a motion about sending everybody if they want to go. I guess the real easy is to answer the question. If there's only a few people that want to go, then we can still pass a motion to let everyone go. But if there's only one or two of you going, then, or we pass a motion for one or two people that wanted to go. Yeah, Trustee Boyton.
Just to clarify, I wasn't interested in going. I just made the motion.
So let me ask the question, is there anybody interested in going? Okay, so there's nobody interested in going. Hold it, we don't have Dustin in, but if Dustin or Diane want to go, they can bring it back up to us as to where it is. Fair enough? So is it okay if we just leave this so that, so we have a motion that's on the floor. Can we just defeat the motion and then move from there? Okay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and vote? All right. Okay, so I passed, 7-0. So we're all going now. Yeah, so, I think that was me that put that on the, was me, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. All right, 8.7. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the Springfield Middle School grade 8 trip to Assissippi Resort March 21st and 20th and 21st, subject to superintendent's approval. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Rowan, seconded by trustee Boytson. Any questions about the Springfield Middle School? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Pass 7-0, thank you. This is then, be it resolved that the board approve in principle the École Parvus School grade 5 and 6 trip to Masqua project to June 12th and 13th, subject to superintendent's approval. Moved by trustee Rowan, seconded by trustee Smith. Any questions to it? Hearing none, we'll vote. Pass 7-0, thank you. Be it resolved the board approve in principle the École Dugald School grade 7 and 8 trip to Quebec, April 29th to May the 4th, subject to superintendent's approval. Mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Rowan, seconded by trustee Boytson. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 7-0, thank you. We're moving into committee reports. So the policy committee, Chair Rowan, anything that from the policy committee, from the meetings? You didn't have a meeting, so we have policy number 15. Be it resolved that the board accept the recommended changes to policy number 15 as suggested. This is moved by trustee Rowan, seconded by, who's also on the policy, trustee Boytson. Any questions to the policies, changes? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Policy number 5, be it resolved that the board accept the recommended changes to policy number 5, page 1, addition of April DPAC meeting as suggested. Moved by trustee Rowan, seconded by trustee Wilson. Any questions to it? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 7-0, thank you. Trustee Rowan, is there anything from the policy committee that you want to share, anything at all?
Just that we have our next meeting this Thursday, which is a little different than our norm because we left the 13th open for the CI fashion show if anybody wanted to attend.
Thank you, that's much appreciated. Thank you for doing that. We're moving on to finance. Trustee Nicol, is there anything from finance that you need to give a heads up to the board?
No, the next meeting would be on the 20th of February. And the only thing I want to remind the trustees, if you want to give your feedback to the indemnity bylaw, I would like to have it in maybe 3-4 days before the 20th. if you give it on the day of the 20th, we'll still put it in, but it'd be nicer if we had it a little bit before.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Education Foundation minutes, there's nothing going on there, correct? There's a meeting that's coming up in April. Again, just to, I think that we talked about this last meeting, or I don't know if I'm the one, if I emailed it to you, but if anybody wants to use the Education Foundation, first of all, if there's a project, it needs to really go through the school principal. The principal needs to scope, kind of get the information of the project, the depth of the information, get it to you. You then kind of take a look at it, and if it's, you know, how long is it, what the scope is, you're going to bring it to the foundation committee. The foundation committee says, yes, hey, listen, we've got we're adding you know, a playground to there. We're going to raise $200,000. We're going to do this over 12 months. The money that people raise, we're going to be able to give them a tax receipt. It's going to go into the foundation, and then when we're there, we're going to go ahead and the division will run that out. It goes to the foundation committee. The foundation committee says yes as to where we are, and then we move forward. And the foundation committee is, who's there with me? I'm on it, I know that. Robin is? You're on it, Rob? Yeah. And who else? And Dawn? Okay, thanks. But that would be the process as to what it is, and why I did that is I just wanted to make sure that if there's anybody out there listening or want to come back to it, that is the process there as to where it is. Yeah, I know I'm getting old and getting late stuff. Okay, perfect about the foundation committee. The ad hoc land planning committee, is there anything, Trustee Rowan?
So a number of meetings ago, we as a board approved all trustees to go and check out the Niverville Community Complex and their school there. I just wanted to update the board and let you know that I have been in contact with them, and this afternoon I did send them 2 dates as possibilities. So if trustees could mark their calendars as potential dates of April 9th or April 23rd. Once I get confirmation back, I will update trustees and or let Sarah know to send out a calendar invite, but I just wanted to kind of give you those dates now, and I picked those dates just based on the availability that our superintendent and our secretary treasurer had.
Thanks, Trustee Rowan. Anyone else want to comment? I can let you know, Melissa, that I won't be going there because I just went there with hockey and I got a little tour and it wasn't a really good hockey experience for us. My team took a licking, so I don't think I'm ever going back to that complex again. Thank you very much for doing that. Let's keep moving on. So professional development, we have the Northeast Municipal Forum. Sarah's been going around and talking to everybody about that. Thanks, Sarah, for getting us certainly organized. So that's February the 10th. MSBA, Sarah's organized everybody. You've got that information that was at your table from Sarah. Thanks for organizing that. Are there any questions about the forum or the convention for myself or Sarah? Okay. So the CSBA, what you've got there, a reminder for us is about the note that's the cancellation fee for registrations. Please can reconfirm your attendance at tonight's meeting. So I think that you've gone around and got everybody certainly with that. So please go ahead and do that with people about CSBA. Thanks for doing that. Any questions about CSBA for anyone? Okay. There is not a divisional financial summary report. Oh, I forgot to add up is that I am now the signing authority for the month of February in the finance portion. Nice to know information. Thank you for doing that and putting the information certainly about kindergarten registration that's going on out there. A number of things. Good. Don't read the thing about high school hockey roundup because it's not good for my hockey team. We haven't been playing well. It must be coaching or something like that. So we have upcoming meetings February. Well, there's a number of meetings now because of what's going on, and I think that Don, you had mentioned it. We're not getting information from the province with regard to funding until very late, meaning then that we need to make a decision at our March 4th board meeting, and when the province doesn't give us information until potentially the middle of February, it's giving us 3.5 weeks for us to go ahead and make a decision. And when we're making a decision on $90 million, do you know what, we would much appreciate information a little bit earlier. So I'm just saying this is that as people are listening, it is going to be a busy time for us as we move through, for us and for Jody, about putting stuff together at last minute, and we just don't think that's a great idea about how to run a business. So anyways, just to give people some information. A question from the public. Jody, do we have any questions that have come to you from the public on 14.1? We don't have to.
Nope, nothing tonight.
Okay, so we have some motions from in camera, and maybe it's just I just haven't refreshed my schedule, but we have some motions, do we not? Can I read the motion off of yours? Okay. So the motion reads, be it resolved that the board approve that the board offer the position of maintenance manager effective as soon as possible, as soon as can be arranged, as recommended by the interview committee. So I need a mover, and it's moved by trustee Nicol, seconded by trustee Boytson. Any questions of that? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. So that passed 7-0. Thank you. Am I missing anything from anyone? That was the only thing from in camera. I'm not missing anything. So we're going to adjourn. We do have to, we are going to go ahead and, just for people that are listening online, we get feedback about our meetings every time from trustees to share about how our meetings went. That's the only thing that we're going to go ahead and do right now, but our meeting will be adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night.
We're back at 9 o'clock. Melissa, comments?